Communication is extremely important, but it's about how you can express yourself. When it comes to things like your relationships with people, when it comes to things like your friends or your family or your partner or even your coworkers, if that's something that's important to you, the way you come across, the way you communicate, the way that you speak is very crucial. It's important because you want people's attention if you speak. If you have something to say, if you feel like you have important things that you want to say, if you have things that you want to get across, then of course you want people's undivided attention when you speak, right? And for that to happen, you have to make sure that you have confidence. You have to make sure you have conviction behind the words that you speak. You have to make sure that when you speak, people are giving you their respect, not only their attention, right? Because attention is one thing, but having respect, right? Being able to gain people's respect mutually, right, is also very important. And it's not something that ultimately has to be given to you just because you think it does. It's something that has to be earned, right? You have to earn people's respect in order for you to get that. And I'm not saying communication is the only way, but it is one of the important ways that you can get people's respect, because the only way we can interact with each other, the only way that we interact properly with each other is how we communicate, right? And it's not just through words. You don't only communicate through your words, you can also communicate through your body language, right? If you're speaking to somebody, you should be looking at them, not just with your eyes, but with your entire body. Your whole body should be facing them. It shouldn't be off to the side, because that also says something. That says something to them about you. If you're not fully directed at them, it's clear that you're not trying to give them your attention. And you can't be surprised when it's not reciprocated, right? When it's not the same thing, when it's not both ways. You can't expect somebody else to give you what you're not giving them. So in order for you to speak clearly, in order for you to have conviction, in order for you to put effort, put 110% power and authority, right? And in order for you to gain other people's attention, you have to be able to combine all these things, right? You have to be able to look people in their eyes, right? Give them full eye contact, right? Not looking around when you're speaking, okay? Not having your head down, right? Having respect for yourself, having your own confidence, and feeling like what you're saying actually means something, that what you're saying is actually very important. Because anything that you have to say, depending on what it is important. If you're speaking, it's probably because you think it's important. It's probably because what you want to say, you want people to hear. So if you want people to hear what you have to say, then of course you have to have confidence behind the words that you speak. And it also has to show through your body language. It has to show through the tone that you speak, right? You have to have some bass behind your voice. And this is not just for men. This is also for women, right? It goes for anyone. You have to be able to show, you have to be able to make people understand that what you have to say, no matter what it is important. If it has something to do with what they're doing or what they're saying, if you have input, then of course it's important. If you have something to say, then say it. But make sure that you stand firm on what you say. Make sure you have complete belief and conviction behind what you say. Make sure that your tone is there, right? That you're speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. You want to speak loudly enough for everyone to be able to hear you in the room. You want to have conviction behind it. You want to have power behind your voice, right? Make sure that you're speaking in a clear tone, not just because you feel like you have to, but because you know you have to. You know you have to in order for everybody to hear you. You want people to hear you? This is what you have to do. And that goes with literally any situation, right? And communication is it's important. The way that you come across is important. The way you actually express yourself is even more crucial. It's even more essential, right? Being able to concisely pick your words, properly pick your words. Being able to use them in the right format is very important. When you have something to say, you do not want to over-explain yourself. People who talk too much tend to lose the reality, tend to lose people's attention. They tend to lose what they're even talking about. Then they start going on about other things. They start branching off and they get lost in their own translation. They get lost in their own conversation, what they were trying to get to, what their point was. You start to notice that, and you probably have been in a situation where that was the case, where you were talking to somebody, or maybe it was even you, where you were talking and you were talking so much, you were over explaining, you were saying too much to the point where you forgot what you were going to talk about. And it's not like you have to be perfect, right? It happens to everybody. And that's another thing about, honestly, anything that you do, the more you do it, the more practice you have in it, of course, the better you're going to get. The more you can communicate, the more you can implement these things, the more practice, the more that you put in, the more you make it a habit, and the more you make it a pattern on being able to communicate properly and communicate concisely with effort and with power and authority behind everything that you say. Of course, the better you're going to be. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's writing, painting, whether it's playing basketball, whether it's driving, whatever. You can apply it to any type of thing, anything, any principles. All these principles, you can apply to anything. And you will be much better at that. But another thing about communication is not just about speaking to somebody. It's also being able to listen, and being able to listen good. Because being able to listen to what other people have to say is what's going to make you a part of the conversation. When you can actually listen and when you can actually understand what people have to say, then you can go and put your own input. You can go and put your own 2 cents in about that topic, no matter what it is. You have to be able to listen. And it's very important because it shows other people that what they have to say is also important. And of course, they have a voice too. They need to speak as well. And if they feel like they have something to say, then it's important to them. Just like how it's important to you, it is just as important for them to speak what they have to say. It is just important to them to be able to express themselves however they feel like they need to in order for them to get their point across. So being able to listen and being able to go off what someone has to say tells them that you're a good listener, and also makes it come across that you are putting effort into the conversation, makes it so that people know that their words are being heard, and that it makes them feel important, makes them feel heard, and it makes them feel like, of course, they're a part of the conversation, because they are. So if you're able to listen and you're being able to comprehend what other people have to say and understand it as well, is very important. It's not just about you getting your words out. It's not just about you having to say something, because there is no conversation if there's no A and B. Okay, there's no conversation if the other person can't speak and be able to communicate what they have to say. You have to give people time to communicate. And if there's any ever kind of conflict when it comes to communication, right? For example, if you have a girlfriend and you guys are in an argument, the communication has to be there. If I had to ask people who are in a relationship like myself, your communication is probably the number one important thing, right? Probably the number one important thing when it comes to any kind of relationships. Not if it's just with your girlfriend, but if it's with your family, your friends, your communication is number one. But being able to communicate, right? Being able to say what you have to say without over explaining yourself, and getting to the point so that people can understand properly, is very important. And communication is what is going to help any kind of conflict. People need to talk things out. You need to be able to hear each other out, and there needs to be some type of resolution or a compromise, or else nothing is going to get fixed, and you can't expect it to be fixed. You can't expect it to fix itself if you don't put in the effort to want to communicate with each other. Has to be that way, or else things are going to get left unsaid, and it's not going to be a good feeling between anyone. It's not going to be good, and it'll actually damage those relationships that you want to have with people. Not being able to express yourself and not being able to let other people express themselves is what's going to damage your relationships. When it's like things with networking, when you have a job or you have a business, you're networking, right? You're talking, you're being able to speak on your own behalf, and you have to make sure that what you're saying and what other people are saying is being met. You guys both have things you want to say, and when it comes to any kind of conflict, any kind of argument, any kind of problem, being able to speak on it, being able to come to a resolution is the most important thing. And as I'm saying this, my throat is getting kind of dry. So everything I just said is simple, not easy. Love y'all, man. Peace, yo.